Then I will share my screen. Let me see. Okay, if I'm right, you should be seeing my PowerPoint now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Dealing with anger. What I thought of doing is first start with showing you a clip. It's a role play, but still, it's about situation being confronted with anger, and just watch it. And I would like to know how you would feel in that sort of situation. So let's take a moment and just see what happens. So Kelly, I've been thinking about the request that you made that I should write a letter to Social Security, but I've decided not to do that.
Oh?
No, I've decided that I wouldn't feel comfortable in writing that letter to them, stating all the things that you asked me to state.
You wouldn't feel comfortable. But I was pretty clear, wasn't I, that this is very important for me.
Yes.
And
yes.
I get some serious financial consequences if you don't.
I am sorry to hear that.
Well, if you're so sorry to hear that, I would suggest that you fill out the form for me and sign it.
Well, I understand that you want me to, but like I said, I will not do that. It wouldn't feel good to me, and I need to take my needs seriously.
Oh, it wouldn't feel good to you. I've been very clear. I mean, I have my life too. I have my house and my rent to pay, and I really, really need this form. So I would suggest it's very simple. Just put your signature there. Everybody happy.
But I will not do that.
Oh, you will not do that?
No.
Well, the interesting thing is that if there's consequences for me, there might be consequences for you as well.
What are you talking about?
I think you know. I've been walking around your neighborhood. That's quite a nice house that you have.
Now, Kelly.
Do you know that you even can see from the street which room your children are in?
Okay, Kelly. Okay. I would just like to get some feedback of you. I mean, this is the situation. This is what you're confronted with. And if you just try to imagine that you would be the therapist, how would it make you feel? How does it make you feel when you're watching? So we would like to say something about that.
Scared.
Scared? Yeah. Can totally relate to that.
Threatened, you can see in the chat. Anastasia, she doesn't have voice sound. Threatened, yeah. She said.
Frightened? Yeah. And what else? Anybody else who would like to say something? How it would make you feel?
Wanted to defend myself.
Yeah.
I want to defend myself because she's too aggressive for me. And
Yeah.
so it gets me in the mood of defensiveness.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I can totally relate to that. Anybody else who sort of feels like I would like to say something in return and tell her off? Or, yeah.
I've gone to such situations, and in such situations all time I scared then client will start fight me, start to beat me.
Yeah.
I'm afraid this really.
Yeah. Yeah. So what we share is that it triggers all kinds of feelings, nervous feelings, anxious feelings, and it also triggers like not just an emotional response, but also a behavioral response. You would like to fight back or defend yourself or anything like that. I mean, this is an experience with anger. You introduce yourself just saying your name and your discipline, but does this also refer to your own personal experiences with anger? And you already mentioned something about it, Olga. You had that people start to be angry. Anybody else also have these sort of experiences? I see you not, Emma. And what do you find so talk a bit about it. What do we find difficult about it? It makes us anxious. What else? What else do we find difficult about being confronted with this sort of anger?
Because you cannot to be just human. You should stay in a therapist position, and you should learn your client. You should manage your fear. In the same moment, you should learn him how to manage this, and you are fear, but you should be good example with your behavior in front of him to show him then what to do in such situations.
Yeah.
This is a double or a triple position which you should manage.
A quadruple position. No, I'm totally agree, in line with you. I totally agree with you. That's making it even more challenging. It's not just that you're confronted with anger. That could happen in your life on the streets, so to say. But now you're also in the role of the therapist. So you need to, on the one hand, deal with a very challenging, difficult situation, but it is triggering, and you all expressed emotional responses and behavioral responses that I can relate to. You have to also manage yourself. So you're managing two systems at once. And I guess that's how it's so challenging to work with anger. Let me see if my PowerPoint works. Yeah. I would like to link this to the agenda, the program that I thought of, because if we have to manage the anger that we're confronted with, it also requires that we have to manage our own schema. So I would like to start with that today. I would like to spend some time on working what it can trigger inside of us and how to deal with that. There's no easy solution to that. I'm not saying like you just solve it that way, but it is something that you need to manage. On the other hand, you need to manage this challenging, difficult situation. But if you have to manage a problem, it starts by having an understanding of what the problem is. So what you have to do with this patient, what you have to do with this situation, it really depends on what your understanding is, what your analysis is of what the problem actually is. So that goes back to what kinds of angry modes we have, how to differentiate between different angry modes. Because if you identify this to be a coping mode, it requires a different approach than when you would say it is more like an enraged child. Or maybe some of you would say it's a healthy adult. That requires also a different approach. So let's talk about what are the goals, but also the strategies in scheme therapy, because that will be, we will need the right strategy to be able to manage the anger in the right way. This is a webinar. It's like 3 hours and 50 minutes that we planned for this evening. It's a long stretch. And I guess it's a different kind of energy. Even though it resembles really a natural live workshop, it still is looking at the screen. So I guess we will be needing for a break halfway through. And after that, after all the talking about our own schemas and the angry modes that could be there, I guess part of the second part of this webinar is about practicing some of the skills and doing an empathic confrontation with a form of anger. And for this day, I would like to practice with the self-aggrandizer mode. For the next part of the webinar, that will be in a couple of days, I would like to focus much more on the Boolean attack mode, limit setting, self-harm will be a topic that we'll be talking about. But also, if this is an example that the patient is really angry and threatening, but what about those patients that we also might have, cluster C patients who are not angry enough? So that's the other side of the dimension I would like to spend some time on. This is what I thought of that we could use our time for. But it's my feeling, my understanding of how to make this an interesting evening. What are the specific goals that you have? What would you like to learn in the next couple of hours? And what is not on the agenda maybe? Who has specific learning objectives that I could take into account? Because I will try to do my best to validate everybody's needs. And then it was a long silence.
Can you look to the chat? This is the...
Sorry?
Can you open the chat? There
Which
is a
part?
message there. Chat.
I guess I have to sort of escape my...
Okay. Connecting to the healthy adult, Anastasia says, in the face of the self-aggrandizer.
Okay.
I have also, I'm very interested about last point about not enough anger. And at that moment, I have a lot of clients who is who really out of anger.
who don't have enough anger.
Yes, but
Yeah.
And I would like to work on it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm glad that we have that topic also on the agenda. Yeah. So that's one thing. You refer to a chart. I'm trying to. Oh, there it is.
No, just at the bottom it's chat because some questions could be there. I can tell you just if you're there.
Yeah. Do it, please,
fine.
because I don't see
Yeah.
it in the screen. Maybe I'm
That's
just
fine.
doing something really stupid. But
That's okay. No.
okay. Any other topics that you would like to address in this webinar? Or would you be happy if it would be just the ones that I mentioned in the agenda?
Можно свое пожелание на русском скажу?
Yeah, I will translate.
Да, что делать в такой ситуации, в самой ситуации, со своим режимом, как справляться с этим? Это тоже было.
To manage with our own schemas and modes in the face of such kind of situations and this anger, situations of anger from the client.
Yeah. So it's good that we start with that then.
Sorry, may I add one more option?
Yeah, sure.
What if the clients come? If the client comes drunk with this rage, attack?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's a very good point. I guess it goes back to the framework for this evening is the framework of schema therapy, and that's a form of psychotherapy. For psychotherapy, we are dealing with challenging situations, but it still is the framework where people come because they want to work changing patterns, and they have the willingness. It's the willingness to work on that is maybe it's not huge, but the fact that they asked, that we agreed that we would work on patterns, that's what the framework is. If they come in drunk, that is sort of out of that framework. It's not psychotherapy when person is drunk. So I guess it is an important question. I'm glad that you mentioned it, but I think it brings us back to how can you make it safe for yourself and the other person, and deal with that challenging situation in such a way that as soon as possible, the patient gets sober again, and then you have a chance to talk with it, because this is psychotherapy. It's not social work. It's not dealing with homeless people who are drunk and are aggressive. It is in the framework of psychotherapy that we are dealing with anger, but hey, sometimes you have these situations that people confront you coming into the room being drunk or under the use of medication. So let's stick with that framework of psychotherapy, but I'm glad you mentioned it, because it is important that we realize that this is the framework. It is not in general how to deal with anger, although some of the tips and tricks that we'll be talking about also can be used in normal life. Okay.
I want to mention that I have difficulties to work with covert anger. But it's not so like probably passive aggressive, or the way of differentiating it and to work with it. Yes.
Yeah.
When I'm not so confident about it.
Yeah. I can understand that. Yeah. So and maybe it's good that you mention it, because in my examples, I guess I will be focusing much more on the overt anger, but I guess this is really some of the challenging situations that we encounter much more, that there is anger, but you can just sense it, and it's more withdrawn. It's not really something that you can explicitly see, and that makes it more difficult to talk about. Yeah. Okay. I should be moving on, because otherwise we'll mess up my own schema, and that will make things worse. And I'm also a bit uncomfortably working with the techniques, but I'm managing, hopefully. Okay. Sharing. Yeah. Alrighty. So we talked about that. So let's talk about our own schemas, because our own schemas can be activated. Is it something that I need to do something with that noise, or? Okay. We have schemas. We have our own vulnerable spots in our personality, and they will be triggered. As you mentioned, just being in a situation as you saw, it will be activated. And when it will be activated too much, it will be overwhelming and make it difficult to deal effectively with challenging situations. So what I like to do is just try to identify some of the schemas that might be activated. So let's say that this is the situation.
I've been sitting here waiting. I mean, I was here on time, and you just keep me waiting like it's nothing.
But I am sorry for that.
Yeah, well, you come in here, you don't say that you're sorry. I'm really, we're always talking about taking responsibility, blah, blah, blah. But then you just come in late, as if it means nothing.
It should have helped you better if I would have said that in an earlier stage, that I'm sorry. Because I am
of course.
sorry.
Of course. Now it just feels like, oh, she's not very important. You can just leave her waiting in the corner.
Anything else that you think you needed in that situation? Because obviously I want to sort of make sure that these things don't happen.
I just want to start on time. I come here with all my feelings and all my stories, and then you shouldn't keep me waiting.
Yeah. So one thing that I'm thinking of now is I will have to organize my appointments differently with a bit more time in between, so to make sure that I will be on time, because that obviously is very important to me. Yeah.
Good.
And of course I understand. Okay. So you witnessed the scene where I, as a therapist, was dealing with a situation. But what about my own emotional experience? What do you think I was feeling or experiencing in this situation?
You?
Yeah. So me as the therapist, what was the feeling I had in this situation? Do you think? What was going through my mind, being in this situation? If you talk, so if somebody talks, try to unmute, and I would like to know.
Yes, it's me. Anastasia says not good enough, like you've let her down.
Yeah. I feel not good enough. I let her down. And what else? What else was I doing?
You try to validate her, I guess, to normalize, to validate her emotions.
Yeah, I was, and I guess I was frantically trying to make things right again. I guess that is something that maybe you can relate to. Like if the patient is upset, angry in this situation, you try to make things right again, which is a natural response, because this is what we do as therapists. We are very focused on the patient. This is what we're trained to do. We are sensitive for the suffering of the patient. That is a positive strength that we have. So the fact that we are so much focused on the other person, that is something that makes us a good therapist, and the patient need that. But in these sort of situations, that strength has also a side effect, or it has its weakness. Because we're so much focused on the other person, it means that everything is focused on how to make things right for the patient. In this case, I wasn't sort of being strong, guiding, managing the situation. I was just trying to make things right for her again. So what is a good quality in many ways with anger that has a side effect? It has a backlash. The patient is angry and we are open for that. I guess in some ways I see it's almost where we are open for the signs and the feelings of our patients, but that gate is so much open that when the patient is angry, everything comes in and it affects us, and we try to help and to mend and then it's not effectively coping with that. Maybe I should have been more stronger with her. Maybe I should have addressed what was happening, not just try to calm her down. So that is one vulnerability that we have as therapists. We have the tendency to stay focused on the patient. And although that is good, not good in every way. Let's give another example.
Remco, I'm sorry. Can you make the
I'm just sitting there waiting.
more loudly?
Sorry?
Can you turn the loud a little bit higher?
Unfortunately, not. And I can try to use it in a different device. But yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned it. I have it on its the loudest, you could say. But apparently it's not really doing its job well. If it's not really something that, if you don't hear it anymore, then please tell me I will use a different device. But let's see how it works if we just try it with this.
Okay.
Nobody comes to tell me that you're late or anything. I don't know if you're even going to be there. It's like, 10 o'clock is 10 o'clock. Yeah, I mean, I really do my best to keep my appointments and to be more responsible. And then I think you should be responsible as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I mean, come on, at least say something. You're not even saying anything.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I messed up.
Yeah, well, good. Because I really don't like it when I'm just left there as if I'm nothing.
Okay. Was it okay? Could you hear some of it? And what do you think I was feeling in that situation?
Guilty.
Guilty? Yeah.
Shame.
Shame? Yeah. I guess what you point out is that in the other example, it was much more that I was so much focused on the other person. Maybe it was combined with the feelings of shame, of being guilty, but I was much more focused on mending things. In this case, I was overwhelmed by a feeling of, I messed up, I'm a complete failure. And again, there are good elements into that as well. It's not just that I'm a bad person or a bad therapist in this situation. What I'm showing is that I'm a human being. And as therapists, what we often have, we have feelings of defectiveness and failure. That is one of the most common schemas that we have as therapists. There's a good quality to that, because the fact that we have this, that sort of helps us to stay attuned with the patient. The patient is suffering, we know what that suffering is. We know that feeling of being a failure or being defective. So this actually has good elements to it. But again, that quality of having that shared pain also has a downside to it, because if it's activated too much, we drown in that feeling and we get paralyzed with it. Do anybody of you know that feeling of that you get when the patient is angry, or in one way or the other, you feel so overwhelmed by a feeling of, oh my God, that you can't do anything, that you're sort of paralyzed?
Yeah.
Yeah? Hi. Oi. That's okay. Don't feel bad about it. But I guess what I got is that, Maria, you recognize it. Anastasia, you also seem to recognize that feeling of being paralyzed. Yeah. Others as well? I know that feeling. I know that feeling it's almost like you get into this tunnel vision. Something is happening, and it's not always this really overt, threatening anger, but there's the strong emotion, and you feel like, oh no, I messed up, and this is not really helpful. But in other situations, knowing that pain, it is helpful. Let's have another one, because what I'm trying to show you is that these are feelings that we can relate to. These are normal human feelings, but maybe we as therapists have them a bit stronger because we have those schemas. We have those schemas of failure and defectiveness, but we also have the schema of self-sacrifice. Okay, another example.
I've been sitting here waiting for at least 5 minutes.
What?
Yeah, 5 minutes. I was supposed to be, we were supposed to start at 10 o'clock, and I was here before 10 o'clock.
Yeah, but I remember that I was at 10, I was in my office, and I remember that I was looking at the clock while I'm putting my things down. So, then I must have been late picking you up from the office, but at the most 2 or 3 minutes, not 5.
No, that's nonsense. I know that, because I was looking at the clock, and I was waiting for a really long time.
Yeah, but you mean the clock in the waiting room?
Yeah.
Because that one is a bit further ahead.
Well, then it shouldn't be. I also deserve to know, what is happening, right?
I'm also thinking, well, yeah, now it was 2 or 3 minutes, and I think it's important that if we discuss these things, that we base that on facts, like now it was 2 or 3 minutes. But yeah, like last couple of times I've been on time. Every time I've been on time so far.
Yeah, so I'm also always on time. And so then it's okay to be late now?
Yeah, well, I think these sort of things happen. It happens to everyone. I think to me, you as well, that sometimes something comes in between and you don't make it on time, which is not a bad thing. If it's just 2 or 3 minutes, or maybe 4 or 5, it certainly wasn't more than that. Okay, what was happening over there?
Making excuses.
Excuses. Yeah. And I agree, but why? What was the observation that led you to this conclusion? He was making excuses.
What I noticed, you were more addressing to the facts, maybe, but not to the process, what is going on, not talking about feelings, but more like rational.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's more about the facts. And if you talk about facts, it's often sort of feels like looking up excuses. It's in a way, there's also more of a fighting, argumentative element to it. Yeah, it was now 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, like if that is the most important thing. Maybe it was a bit exaggerated, but I wonder if do you also have sometimes that you feel like, yeah, but this is really unfair. And now I need to make sure that I have to defend myself. Do you know that feeling?
Yeah, I do.
It's of course a very normal human feeling, but I guess it's also a feeling that will be a bit stronger when you have underlying standards, and that is also a very common schema that we have as therapists. There's a very strong feeling like how things should be done and what is right and wrong, etc. Again, very good qualities to having that schema. So the fact that we have that schema, and it's one of the most popular ones in a way, whoa, there was a lot of noise. It's sort of a drive. It helps us to do our best, and that is, I guess, why we are good therapists. But there's a risk to that we remain too cognitive, that we are focused too much on factual things or how things. Maybe what you also can relate to is that you were trained, when you were trained in schema therapy and when you learned how to do an imagery work or chair work, you were so much focused on, okay, what should I do next and what is the next step and how to do things right. There's a good element to it again, but the risk that everything is so much focused on the facts and you sort of lose sight of what really is important. So I guess what I was trying to point out with these examples is there's a very human aspect to the responses that we saw, but they're also related to schemas that we have as therapists. These are the top 3 schemas that we have. So how to deal with it? I guess the very first step that we have to be realizing is that we have those schemas, we are being triggered, and when we were talking about angry patients, you had your experiences that were challenging and horrible maybe. Stay full of compassion to yourself. The fact that you were triggered, the fact that you were paralyzed, the fact that maybe you were a bit too argumentative with that patient, it's not a bad thing. It's just a sign that you were facing a very challenging situation and it was difficult to handle. Compassion should be there. That's the very first step. Compassion about the fact that you were facing a very challenging situation, but also compassion about the fact that there's a reason why you have those schemas. There's a childhood history, there's your background that has led you to have this schema. So be also very warm and understanding about that. I'm saying that with so much emphasis because especially when we are faced with challenging situations that trigger us, like anger, there's the tendency to sort of jump into action, to think, what should I have done differently? And what will I do next time differently? And of course, we will need to talk about that. That will be a really important focus of this webinar. But the only way that we can make that work is that we are in a mental state where we are open for those behavioral modifications. We need to sort of calm ourselves down. And when you have been facing a very angry patient, there's no way that you will be helped by just saying, next time I will do this and next time I should have done. Start by being very compassionate. Basically, I'm not just saying that because it is helpful, but this is actually also something that we are teaching our patients. So why not use it for ourselves then? What we're teaching our patients is also, hey, calm down, of course, but hey, don't be hard on yourself. It was a difficult situation. And hey, with what you've been going through in your background, this is especially difficult. The same compassion and understanding we need to offer to ourselves. Does that make sense? Okay. Of course, after that calming down, we need to do something with it. And the next step, the next thing that we need to do is that we need to be aware that we don't flip into our own modes. It's not just our patients who have modes, like parent modes and coping modes, we have them ourselves. So the chances are high that when you have been facing an angry patient, you will look at yourself in that situation with a bit of a harshness. You will look at yourself like, that wasn't good, and I should have done better, and you always mess up, and anger is not your thing, etc. I guess the next step, after you tried to be full of understanding and warm and compassionate with yourself, the next step is you have to sort of fight that self-devaluative process. You have to fight your parent mode. Why is that critical side of you not right? You have to give specific reasons to it, why it's not right. The same goes for the coping mode. I guess being confronted with anger, what can easily trigger, I guess it triggers that with me quite easily. I flip into my surviving system. I flip into my survival mode, and I detach, and I'm still there, but I'm detaching from my feelings. That's not the best way to effectively cope with the situation. But then you need to deal with that. That coping mode has been activated. What are you going to do with that? So if you are activated, if your personal schemas have been sort of overthrown you, start with being very understanding. But then again, work on those coping modes and parent modes in a realistic, healthy way. The first thing that we need to realize is that even though you have been triggered, that doesn't mean that you have been the bad one or the patient. I mean, what it just tells you is that you're human. And even though you have your vulnerabilities, it's still the patient who's struggling, really struggling in life. You've been stumbling into your human sides, but you're still the healthy one. So don't forget that. That's a very healthy realization that can easily be lost after you've just survived a very difficult situation with an angry patient. And then the third step that we need to do is we need to deal with that situation. What are we going to do? Now, and that will be the major part of the rest of the webinar, because the behavior modification, what you need to do with that situation, there are basically two steps, and these two steps are the essence of schema therapy in a way. It starts with mode awareness. What actually was going on? Which side of the patient were you witnessing? You have to have an understanding which mode you're dealing with to know what to do, because the second step, what we're doing in schema therapy, is mode management, and it has to be in that order. It starts by mode awareness, so you can manage it properly. So, we're dealing with challenging situations in patients. That means that we will be triggered and activated. But then, if that happens, and it will happen, be kind, understanding, stay warm to yourself. There are reasons why you activate. It's a challenging situation and you have your schemas. Try to fight those old patterns. Being too critical, try to give reasons why that's not right. But then the third step is you need to do something with that difficult situation. Okay, now what mode were you facing and how can you effectively manage that mode? Okay. That brings us to that first step, mode awareness. What kind of modes do we have? Now, it's quite an open door. I mean, you know this. You've been telling me like that you're a schema therapist. So you know about the child modes, the coping modes, the parent modes. Been trying to link it to anger. So this is common language for us. It's not so much that I would like to offer you the theory because you know the theory, but I would like to practice our skills in how to identify and how to differentiate between those different modes. So what I will be doing now is stop sharing because I like to see the faces of you all. That makes it a bit more real. I'm going to play a patient in a certain mode. And this is like the guess the mode game. You will have to figure out what mode you're facing. Okay? So I need a therapist, somebody who will start the conversation with me. Who would like to be my therapist? This is like your chance. Finally, you can have Remco as your client. Make him healthy and sound again. Who would like to be my therapist? Yes. Okay, Oksana. So you just start the session and I'll try to be in A mode and the rest of you have to figure out what mode it is.
Okay. So hello Remco, how you been this week?
Okay. Okay, I said okay.
Ah, you said okay. I'm sorry. What do you mean okay, Remco? What is going on now?
Just okay. I mean, you asked me how my week was, and I just said okay. That's what it was.
Remco, I'm looking at you and I see that something is going on right now with you.
I told you everything was okay. Why push on through? I told you everything was okay. Why you keep asking me these questions?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I know already which mode is that.
You know it all. Like you know me.
I'm telling not like the therapy.
Okay. Okay. What mode was I in, do you think?
I think it's a angry protector, like when you're pushing me away.
Okay. So I see some people not. And why? Why do we think this is an angry protector? Because you're right. This is a good interpretation. Based on what observations? What was I saying, doing? What were the signs that made it so obvious that this was the angry protector? A coping mode.
Because you're keeping her at bay, you're creating a bit of a wall. You're kind of saying piss off without saying that.
Yeah.
You don't want to hurt her, but you're kind of like grumpy and friendly.
You're
You're
totally
creating a
right.
bit of a wall.
But if I'm a bit critical, I could say, well, you're right, but it is still an interpretation. But based on what observations? What made it so clear that there was this wall? What made it so clear to you that I was?
You were looking, you were looking down and kind of like, in a bit of a, you were cutting off the contact, no eye contact.
Okay. So what
your posture,
yeah,
your
so
body language.
Exactly. So what you point out is are non-verbal signs, and that is an important source of information. I mean, if we identify modes are emotional states. So the emotional state is often sort of shown by the way that people are behaving, the tone of voice. What about the tone of voice? What was the tone of voice?
Cold.
Cold.
Irritated.
Irritated. Yeah. And how were you feeling, Oksana, as the therapist?
Yeah, I actually identified, I think, using my feelings because I felt that you want me to leave you alone, to keep me on the distance.
And you could feel that in your emotional response, you mean? What was that emotional response? What were you feeling?
What I was feeling pushed away, but you are talking probably about my emotions.
Yeah, but that's also an awareness. Like, this is no right or wrong. I'm just trying to sort of together with you figure out how do we identify. And obviously, one of the sources that we use is that we look at the non-verbal signs, and the non-verbal signs often are really a good source of information because they sort of reflect the emotional state it is in. But also our countertransference is also a very good source of information. How we feel is also telling us something about the emotional state the patient is in. And what you first mentioned as one of the first things is that you were feeling pushed away. You were feeling a distance. Yeah. And what was I talking about? What were the words that I was saying? Just the verbal content, so to say.
It was very limited. So within me, there was this relentless desire to keep reaching out to you. You kind of like piss off, and I'm like, oh no, but let me try again. But let me try again. But no, where are you? Let me reach out for you.
Okay. Well, it shows like a very good therapeutic response. Like you want to sort of go over that wall, reach out to the patient. But actually, what I also hear you say is that we don't know yet what is going on. You want to reach out because you want to know what is going on. So the words don't tell us. The words that I was using was, I just said it was okay and that's enough. Maybe I could have said something like, leave me alone. I don't want to talk about it. So that all tells us something about the mode that I'm in. If you look at the different modes that I was shown to you, a child mode would be giving you much more information. A parent mode would give you much more information because the parent mode would easily talk about every critical detail that was there. The non-verbal signs would be different because a child mode would be more emotional. A parent mode is more emotional. The coping mode is about not wanting to talk. The coping mode is about not just with the words, but also non-verbally push you away. And you will feel that. You will feel that as a countertransference. Very good. Okay. let's move on, Oksana. So we're still in the same session. You've been starting up, and I was just no. I just told you everything is okay.
Remco, I think are you angry right now at me?
Why bother? Why bother to talk about my feelings? How is that going to help me? No, really seriously, how's that going to help me? Like last time, I've talked about my feelings, and then what? What are you going to do about that? You're not doing anything. Just leaving me with this all shit and just feel worse, and nothing's going to change, and everything's still rubbish. I still go home, and everything's just a mess, and everybody's just leaving me. Nobody's really helping me.
Okay, I see you are very angry. You are telling me
No, I was just being happy.
not helping.
Yeah, healthy, yeah.
helping.
Oh, helping. What was the mode? What was this mode? Healthy adult?
Bully attack. No.
Bully attack?
No, angry child.
Angry child.
Child.
So there's a little bit of debate. Okay. Let's use the source of information. What was I saying? What do we know about my emotional experiences, about my life? What do we know now about me?
You're frustrated. Nothing seems to change. What's the point? I do it. No shift. There was no direct attack on Oksana as a therapist.
Okay.
So there was no desire to hurt her. So it was just more like,
the
hear
words
my
were
pain,
about
my
suffering.
pain.
Yeah,
I'm
the words
stuck.
were about suffering. In a way, we are much more aware now of what is going on. So apparently, I'm in a shit, and nothing changes, and therapy is not helping. So it tells us something. It tells us much more than this situation just before that. What about the tone of voice? What about the non-verbal signs? What about that? It wasn't the same as the first example. What was different?
It was powerful. There was energy in there.
Yeah. So I guess the other one, when I asked you what about the nonverbal signs, you said things like irritated, closed off, pushing you away. I guess it all depends, of course, on my acting qualities. But what I tried to do is be much more primary in my anger. It was bursting out. It was raw. It was like an explosion. And that's different. If you look at the different modes that we have, that I talked about, child coping, parent modes, the coping modes doesn't like these primary emotions. They're only as a means sometimes, as a tool to push you away. But basically, a coping mode is about keeping all the emotional feelings away. A parent mode can be emotional, but it's much more the internalized voice. It's sort of showing you how you look at yourself. But this is like the primary emotional response, making more coping mode. I wondered how were you feeling, Oksana?
I was feeling scared, but I'm usually scared. I have very big problems with the anger in any mode. Yeah, but also I felt but also I felt a connection in some way. It was like you are trying to tell me something.
Okay. So I can easily imagine that it is something scary. I mean, it's it might be really triggering if somebody is that they're that angry with you. But maybe for the bystanders, the people who witnessed that, were you also feeling scared, or were there other emotional responses that you had?
Sorry, Remco, I didn't understand your question. And if it was to me or to other participants?
No, I just wanted to acknowledge that for you, I can easily imagine that you could feel that fear, because my anger, you were the one who was sort of confronted with that. But maybe for the other participants who were more bystanders, how were you feeling about me and my anger?
I felt sorry for you.
Relief, yeah, understanding what's going on.
Yeah, and that's also important.
I wanted you to shut up. I wanted you to like go away like an annoying kind of like whinge, get lost.
Yeah. No, I can understand that as well. I guess like we started, we have our personal schemas. We are different persons, so we have our own personal responses to these kind of situations. But what I found typical is that with this more primary form of anger, there might be sometimes that element as a countertransference, I mean, of awe. And that feeling of awe, that is something that you don't get with the coping mode. The coping mode is there to push you away and is using anger to do that. You will not have that automatic response like, ah, it will trigger other feelings. An angry child might, there's a chance that it might trigger feeling sorry because you feel the hurt. Anger from the child mode is the flip side of the same coin of being hurt and pain and vulnerable. I mean, you're hurt. There are two sides to that. There's the pain, the sadness, the fear, but there's also the anger to it. It's something that we don't learn, that is something in our human DNA. So when the anger is something that you're confronted with, the other side of the same coin is still there. And sometimes you can already hear some of that pain. And what are you going to do about it? You're not really helping me. I'm still the same shithole. Nobody's really caring about me. And it sort of comes to the surface that there is also pain and suffering underneath that. So that's something that we can respond to. Yeah. Now let's say that this is the next session. Oksana.
Hello, Remco. How are you? How have you been?
Not good at all. And to be honest, I thought I wouldn't come to therapy.
Why? What happened, Remco? What do you mean?
This is so, I can't even begin to describe how messed up all this is. I mean, look at the situation. Look at me just being like I'm this crazy messed up psycho that's being sort of threatening you and threatening other people, and that's so stupid, so horrible. I mean, we should stop therapy. I mean, this is not going to work. And this is not about you, by the way, Oksana. This is not about you. You do your best, but really seriously, if I look at myself just shouting at you like I did last time, oh, I can just shoot myself. God, disgusting. Okay.
Wow. Look, looks like you have a very hard time now, Remco.
No, I'm just really enjoying myself. I'm just, no, you are, sorry, just a way to get out of the role play. But what was the mode that I was being in, do you think?
Parent mode.
Parent mode, yeah.
Why?
Because he was angry at himself. You were angry at yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and how could we tell? Because the words, I guess, the verbal content. I'm so messed up. I'm a psycho. I'm crazy. So there's anger, but the anger is now directed at myself. That makes it very different from the other kinds of anger that we just spoke of. The coping mode is often outwards because it is relating to the external world. You don't want the others to connect. So anger can be a mean to push others away. But with an angry parent mode, you're looking at yourself, not liking what you see. And the anger can be quite impressive. People can shout and use curse words, etc. But it's a different aim. And also, like in the countertransference, what about that? How would you already showed some of your responses, Oksana, but what was the need or what was your impulse?
Oh, to support, really, to distinguish that is the stupid moment to stand up for you.
Yeah. So I get, yeah? Anybody else? What we talk about is that with the parent mode, it's just a repetition of the internalized messages. Like basically parents have been looking at their children that way. I'm talking about parents, but any other caregivers. And they've been doing that so intensely that you've been internalizing that as a patient. So you carry around that parent's voice internally, and flipping into that mode, you look at yourself. But if you are confronted as a therapist with that, we can feel the urge to step in between and say, hey, stop doing that. It's not that bad. So that is also a countertransference that tells us something. We often don't have that response with the coping mode. The coping mode is aimed at us, is pushing us away. We don't feel the need to step in, maybe defend ourselves, but it's different. So these are the basic modes, so to say. And what we talk about is that what we're looking for, how we differentiate between modes is by listening to what the patient is saying, but also to how the patient is saying all that. And we are listening to our own countertransference, this is what we always do. So if we're talking about anger, we are still doing that. But these are the source of information that can be helpful. Easier said than done, but it is a first start. I mean, it starts with mode awareness. So this is a way to become aware what mode is activated. Okay. Now, what about a healthy adult? How does that look like? I guess, oops, I have to go back, flipping back and forth. So, Oksana, let's say that the next session is there.
Okay. Hello, Remco. How you been?
Well, actually, I didn't want to come to therapy, and so yeah.
Why? What happened, Remco?
Yeah, why? I mean, look at how things are going. I mean, I'm not going anywhere, and again, I mean, I'm not talking that everything is rubbish, but the last time when you kept pushing me and we had this clash, I came home and said to my girlfriend, I'm not going to go back there anymore. I'm stopping therapy. I've had it. And then she said, well, then you definitely should talk about that. So, hey, that's why I'm here now. Okay. But I mean, it's not getting anywhere, does it? I mean, is this normal? Like how I've been shouting at you, Oksana. I've been calling you names. I mean, how messed up can you be that you curse at your therapist? I mean, and I know what you're going to say, Doug. This is my punitive side. Well, maybe it is, but maybe he's right. Okay. What was that about, do you think? I already mentioned it, but still. Yeah.
You said in the beginning that that is healthy, but now I'm doubting what.
I think it could look like a bit angry child, because it feels like a bit anger there.
Yeah. I guess I've been making it difficult for you, and I deliberately did that because I could have it would have been easier if I just showed you a healthy adult like this one, like this Buddhist monk hovering above the world. That kind of anger would have been like, well, Oksana, I've been doubting if I should come to therapy, but I guess, yeah, I've been irritated, but I guess that's more my angry side. Maybe that's something we could discuss today. And I mean, that would have been super. That would have been like this super kind of being angry, just talking about it in a very easy way. But that's not reality. I guess what is real is that we are healthy adults, and we do get angry. And anger is not a nice thing to be confronted with. If you look at your personal lives, just be honest. Are you this Buddhist monk that is angry in this sort of balanced way, talking about your feelings? I guess if you're honest, you're like me. I mean, we sometimes get triggered and we. So anger is not a bad thing. Anger, even in a raw, primary way, can still be part of a healthy adult. What was making it a healthy adult then? The way that was playing, I guess. I was saying stuff like, I didn't want to go back to therapy. But then my girlfriend said, well, then you should talk about it. So apparently I've been talking about the situation with my girlfriend. So here I am. Oh, apparently I've been taking her advice seriously. And then I say, well, yeah, I know what you would say. You would say that this is like my punitive side, but maybe it is. So apparently I'm remembering what the therapist's point of view is about having these modes. So the elements of the healthy adults seem very tiny, but they are important. I'm pointing it out to you because if we are aiming for the patient to be this Buddhist monk, then you can wait for a very long time. What we have to be realistic in expectations. The patients are struggling, but when they do have these healthy elements, they are part of a healthy part that you want to strengthen. So point it out, be full of compliments. The patient has been shouting at you, but he has been talking about his feelings. I'm glad that you shared. The patient wants to stop therapy, but he's talking about it. maybe threatening that he will leave the session in a couple of minutes, but hey, still talking and still sitting. I'm glad that you still sit here with me. I'm glad that you talk about what your feelings are. So strengthening a healthy adult is something that requires us to be sensitive to tiny elements. That's the message, I guess. Does that make sense? Okay. So listen to what the patient is saying, listen to how he says it, but also listen to your own countertransference, the 3 sources of information. Now let's fine-tune it a bit, because basically so far it has been about child, coping, parent. But reality is literature in your clinical practice is full of different kind of modes. Like there's talk about an enraged child sometimes. How is that different from an angry child? Coping modes, yeah, but there's a whole range of angry coping modes. So how to differentiate between those variations? That's something that I would like to practice. Okay? First of all, and you have to speak up because I don't see you all. What about the tempo? Are you still with me? Am I going too fast? No? Am I going too slow?
No.
So I'm perfect in my tempo. I'm perfect as you're perfect as you are, Remco. Sorry, it's late, a long day. I'm a bit tired. Okay. Another example. Hopefully the sound will be good enough because I realize it's not being super for you. Let me try something else. Just hold on for just 1 sec. So, while clicking through all this, there it is. How are you doing? How are you feeling today? You hear it? Okay, but you didn't see it, of course. I have to share. How are you doing? How are you feeling today?
Doing good.
Yeah?
Yeah, no complaints. Yeah.
So what have you been doing last week?
Well, you know the normal routine around here. Everybody sort of has their own program for you, and the therapists and all the social workers, and I'm just sort of doing what I'm being told to do, just going along with the program.
Okay.
No problems. Yeah.
So you seem to have a good idea of what people are expecting of you, and you
That doesn't
try
take
to
too
comply the way they would like you to be.
Yeah, I think that's what they want, huh?
Okay.
Yeah, just to go along with the program and don't cause problems and be a good citizen. So
Just in between, it goes further, but do you have any ideas at this stage what kind of modes you're looking at?
Remco, just a second. I didn't see the video. I just saw one, like a picture.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, me too. It's not moving, but you could hear it's a compliant surrender.
Okay. Let me see if I can share it. And compliant surrender because
he says, I'm being a good citizen, just going along. Everybody's got something for me to do. I'll just do it.
Yeah. Can you see the picture now, by the way?
Just the picture.
Okay. And is it moving now?
No, but it's okay. Could hear. The audio is quite clear.
Okay. So compliant surrender. Well, keep that thought and let's see how it goes.
their own program for you, and the therapists and all the social workers, and I'm just sort of doing what I'm being told to do, just going along with the program. Okay. No problems. Yeah.
So you seem to have a good idea of what people are expecting of you, and you
that doesn't
try to comply in the way they would like you to be.
Yeah, I think that's what they want, huh?
Okay.
Yeah, just to go along with the program and don't cause problems and be a good citizen. That's what I'm doing.
Okay. And this program you've been following last week, is this the same, are those the same things that you would like to be doing, or that you feel that are about things that are really important for you?
Same things that I'd like to be doing?
Yeah.
You know, I'd rather be windsurfing.
Okay.
You know, or I'd rather go off and shoot some pool, and yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure what you're getting at here. Okay. I have to admit, I found it a little bit of a stupid question, to be honest with you. Okay. I mean, of course, it's not what I would prefer to be doing. I'm just doing what I'm being told to do.
Well, maybe what I'm trying to ask you is, you seem to be complying in the expectancies other people may have of you, but I'm not quite sure what your ideas of being in therapy or being around here, what you want to achieve, or what you want to be doing. So you're telling me about the things other people expect of you, but I'm not quite sure how your ideas or feelings are about the things you've been telling me about or doing here.
You know, I sense that you're having a difficult time following me. That you seem to have difficulty in terms of following my explanation. Is there something about what I said that was confusing to you, or?
Well, maybe the things you didn't say or didn't tell me about, like you're telling me about things other people expect of you, but I'm not hearing you tell me about.
No, can I just interrupt for 1 second? I mean, I don't. You know, I've worked with quite a few therapists, and please, Remco, don't take this personally, but you really don't seem to me to be, you know, able to really sort of understand what I'm talking about. I mean, you know, there are many therapists that I've worked with who seem to be able to understand me quite well. We never really seem to have any difficulties. I explain myself. And I'm just wondering, I mean, you know, you're not an intern or something, are you? Are you somebody who's sort of at the beginning of your training? I mean, you're asking me these questions that are, you know, so repetitious and vague and so forth. And I'm just kind of wondering if you have the requisite skills and abilities to work with somebody. Or maybe, I mean, again, please don't take this the wrong way, but maybe it's just that I'm a little too intelligent for you and you have a hard time working with a patient who's as intelligent as I am. And, you know, to be honest with you, I just don't think I really want to waste a lot of time here. You know, this is important, and I don't think I should really have to spend a lot of time explaining myself over and over again. And, you know, again, nothing personal, but maybe if they found somebody who had an easier time understanding me, you know, somebody who was at my level, then we wouldn't have to waste so much time.
Somebody who wouldn't be asking you all these questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now I seem to be understanding you. Okay. So, still think it was the compliant surrender?
No.
Self-aggrandizing.
Why? Why was it there self-aggrandizing?
Devaluating. Yeah, devaluating.
Yeah, devaluating. Yeah. And, hold on. How are you doing? Oops, sorry. Devaluating, and how could you tell? How could you tell it was devaluating?
Yeah. He said
Jongens.
something.
Sorry. Okay. Me messing up the system. But why was it devaluating?
Well, he was talking about a therapist who could be the same level as the client is. Yes. Are you new? Yeah, you're just starting your practice, kind of stuff. Kind of like.
Yeah. So the words that he was speaking were really developing. He was talking about, well, you're new here, you begin with your training, maybe you're not as intelligent as I am. Mm-hmm. What about the tone of voice?
Denigrating. He was putting you down. He was saying, you're not getting me.
Yeah.
And his lonely child is popping through, but you just want to punch him back as well. It's like the internal response. You just
So that was the counter transfer. I agree that the tone of voice was also developing, and maybe that was also an important thing in the beginning. In the beginning of the clip, he wasn't talking yet about, oh, you're not as intelligent, but there still was this developtive element to it. So what have you been doing? Well, all the therapists and all the social workers and all have their programs, and I'm just being a good citizen. I mean, let them play along. So the tone of voice was already there. So again, try to use all the different sources of information, because if you just listen to the words, sometimes you miss that. It really is sometimes helpful to close your eyes for the ears for the words, but just listen to the tone of voice. Yeah. And the countertransference, you already mentioned that, Anastasia, you wanted to punch back. Other responses, emotional responses that you had? You all wanted to punch back, or how did you feel?
Close off, maybe.
Close off.
To
Yeah.
detach.
Yeah. 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 Of course, it really depends on who you are and your personal schemas. But it's natural that you feel small, and that is a sign of this self-aggrandizer. The self-aggrandizer makes you small. Alrighty, I have to start sharing again. There it is, and then I can do this, and hopefully it will work.
I told you very clearly that I wasn't going to do it again. I told you 2 times already. But you keep pushing me. And I'm telling you, if you do that one more time, yeah, you will find it. Listen, I'm talking to you. Look at me. I'm telling you, if you ever do this with me again, really, I can't guarantee what I'll do.
Okay. Which mode was that?
Bully attack.
Bully attack. And why?
Because it's she's threatening. She says that she will do something bad with you, kind of.
Yeah. So the words are threatening. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the natural response to those words is to feel. How do you feel in that situation?
Well, the desire to protect yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a different emotional response than what you would have with that self-aggrandizer. Again, individual differences maybe, but the self-aggrandizer makes you feel small, and maybe you want to punch back. But this is something that backs you into a corner. Maybe you want to close off, protect yourself in another way. Yeah. And maybe the tone of voice, it's anger, but what about the anger?
It's pushing, yeah, kind of.
Yeah. It's coming in your face. It's also non-verbally leaning forwards, pointing a finger at you. But also it's threatening. It's really typically for the bully and attack. It's like this. It's more this primitive form of anger. It's like the Wild West or the jungle way, like unga unga unga. If you step into my territory, it has that element to it, which is different from other kinds of anger. If you look at the self-aggrandizer, it was much more controlled, looking down. This is much more aggressive in a way.
Oh, you're just a softie. Always with your soft voice, and let's talk about our feelings. Oh, you don't like that, huh? Yeah, but it's true. You just can't handle me. You're just scared. Loser.
Okay. Well, which mode? Just listen to if we listen to the verbal content. What was she talking about? What was she saying?
Criticizing you.
Yeah. So she wasn't talking about her feelings. She wasn't looking at herself, talking about how she messed up. So it tells us that she's not in a child mode or a parent mode. She's more in a cope mode. But with what tone of voice did she say that, criticizing me?
She enjoys making you feel bad.
Yep. Yep. How do you?
Like she's victimizing you and enjoying the process, like in a predator mode.
Yeah,
Maybe.
she's enjoying like pushing the button and then enjoying the effect it has.
Yeah.
What a bully would do. So this is also the bullying attack, but much more the bullying variation to it. It has these 2 elements. Be aware that bullying attack is easily thought to be just this threatening type that we just witnessed, but it can be more this bullying effect, that it's just like bullies sometimes do. Yeah.
But it's also similar, I guess, to self-aggrandizer, Remco.
Yeah.
Or not?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you pointed out. What we talk about are all forms of overcompensating coping modes. So If you look at the self-aggrandizer, the Boolean attack where it's more attack, the Boolean attack where it's more bullying, it's all a form of overcompensation. And overcompensation means the person is in an emotional state where it tries to control by using anger, but different forms of anger. It's a different form of anger, pushing somebody down or attacking him or enjoying the feeling to be in control. So they do look alike sometimes. They're in the same corner. So the fine-tuning what we do is not essential. It is helpful, of course, because it can make you aware what side of the patient you're focusing, but much more important is that we are aware that this is a coping mode. The coping mode will have a consequence for the therapeutic strategy that we need to follow. This is more fine-tuning to give words to another kind of energy, another kind of interaction that we're seeing, but they look alike. Yeah. Was I already clicking forward? Oh, no.
Oh, you're...
Yeah. I'm just a loser, I know.
Yeah, well, he said something to me. Yeah, I can't let that go. I don't know when. I don't know how. But really, this is going to have consequences and he is going to feel it. So you better watch yourself.
Okay. What kind of mode do you think this was?
Looks like the same, actually.
Looks like the same.
Maybe a bit more predatorial. Watch what you say, and there will be consequences. Just from the article you sent, I've never really had this face to face, but it's kind of like, I will kill you. Watch out. So,
yeah, but it looks the same. If you look at them, it's again in the same corner. But if you listen to it, the other one was doing something actively. He was calling me a loser and enjoying the sight of it. What was she talking about now in the last segment? What were the words?
Revenge? Is it like more like a...
Yeah, but it was also more in the future. It was revenge planned in the future. Yeah, it will have consequences. He better watch his step. It was in advance. And what it was similar was that controlled way in a way, but it was even more colder, I guess. It is fine-tuning, but this is why it is called a predator, because like a predator is sort of approaching its prey in a controlled, planned way, which makes it different from that uncontrolled, more primitive jungle way of the Boolean attack, like unga, 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 or when you feel attacked, you flip into this mode where you feel like, oh, so this is the game they will play. Okay, so I will remember that, and then I will plan my revenge. It's colder, it has a different quality to it, and it is written in articles, yes, yeah, as the predator mode. Yeah. Sorry, last one.
Everybody is just against me. They're like, whatever I do, it doesn't seem to matter because people are canceling and nobody even cares about me. So I might as well just go away.
What do you feel, Anastasia?
it's an enraged child that just gave up on the world.
Yeah, exactly. But what I was triggered by or excited by was that you said, oh, and maybe that was the same feeling that we just talked about. If it was like a child mode, the countertransference can be some sympathy or empathy that you feel. Is that what you experienced?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I don't. I don't.
I don't feel empathy. What were you feeling, Maria?
I don't know, probably scared as well. Fear.
Yeah. And that's, of course, it can be many different things that we feel. I guess it's just part of what we use. There are 3 sources that we spoke of so far. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Sometimes you just use 1 or 2 and it's okay. But it's good to be aware that these are sources of information. If you look at the other sources, she is talking about an emotional message like nobody seems to care about me. It is about an internal reality. But what makes it a bit more enraged maybe is that the anger is even stronger than it was with the angry child. And maybe in some cases can be focused more, like with a narcissistic patient, the enraged child is an enraged child because it's anger to the extreme, but it's also focused on one object. Not so much in a threatening way, but so much overwhelming anger about the injustice of it all that it can be very destructive, and it can sort of make them commit a crime. Okay. What I would like to do is talk about what it means. I mean, try to remember how we got to this point. We started by talking about anger, and I showed you a clip where I was, in a way, confronted with the patient being angry. And then we said, well, it activates us. We feel all sorts of things. It can be anxiety, it can be irritation. And with that feeling, that feeling can be sometimes so overwhelmingly strong that we are trying to do something. Then we said, okay, so there are two aspects. You have to manage your own modes, but there's something else as well. You have to manage the situation. How to manage your modes? Stay calm, understanding, don't flip into your own parent mode, don't start to be too critical. But what about this reality? How are you going to deal with it? And it has to start with mode awareness. This is why we practice this differentiating skills. We have to have an awareness what we are facing, because it will have consequences for the strategy. What is the most important thing in chemotherapy and in life, I want to add? What is the most important thing? Let's make this like an exam. Okay.
Basic needs. Basic needs?
Yeah. Oh, who said that?
Me.
Well, good for you. Good point for you. Now, basic needs, that's the essence. It's on a theoretical level, but also on a practical level. What we try to do with the patient always is linked to the basic needs. What has this patient been missing out on, and how are we going to validate that unmet need? So to translate that into terms of modes, where do we find those basic needs? What is the mode that is linked to these basic needs the best? Where do we find the basic needs?
In the child mode.
Yeah. So in a way, it's or sometimes like a roadmap. If you make a mode model on your whiteboard and you describe this coping mode as a protective wall, and you talk about an internalized parent mode, and there's this lonely child underneath all that. In a way, it's a roadmap, because this is the destination. We want to connect with the child mode. That is the goal that we have throughout therapy, but also in every session. What we try to do every session again and again and again is connect to this emotional side. Research showed, maybe some of you heard Arnoud talk about it in 2018 in Amsterdam. Research showed that the best predictor for a good and effective therapy are the changes in the child mode and the healthy adult. So to connect to those modes will help you to make the therapy the most effective. So this is where we find the basic needs, which is also, by the way, a very upsetting message for a patient, because basically what we say to the patient is, we want to connect to your emotional side, where you feel pain, where you feel anger, where you feel the hurt. So we have to have a rationale why we do that. Basic rationale for why we want to do that is that the anger that you feel and the sadness that you might feel, these are symptoms. They are symptoms like fever are symptoms for an inflammation. It will tell us what you actually need. So the needs are underneath that anger. That's where the healing takes place. If we can meet your unmet needs, that will really be the healing. The way to go to the way to come to the child mode is to bypass this coping mode, and that requires some negotiation. So if the patient is in a self-aggrandizer mode, if the patient is in a bullying attack mode, it's like this protector blocking us. We would like to connect to this child mode, but we are faced with another guard keeping us away. You're doing that maybe in a very aggressive way. The way to bypass this is, the essence of it is to negotiate, because there should be an understanding in what we have for this aggressive protector. It's upsetting, it's threatening, it's not healthy, but it's there for a reason. It's there because it wants to help, it wants to protect. And that's a very, the intentions are good. So we need to work our way around them. the way to deal with these internalized parent modes, that's much more simple. Like we want to counter them, we want to address them. So the basic strategy in schema therapy, this, sorry for that, maybe repetition for some of you, or for all of you, is like we need to negotiate with coping modes, we need to fight parent modes, we need to validate the child modes. It's negotiation, fighting, validation. Negotiate, fight, validate. That's what we do. So I like these mottos and these sort of simple step-by-step things. And some of them I already shared with you today, because I told you schema therapy is all about mode awareness, then mode management. And the way to manage is to negotiate, to fight, and to validate. That's what we do. And it doesn't change if it comes back to anger. So we've been practicing really hard in differentiating between angry modes because we need to apply and follow the same strategies. If our analysis, if our understanding is, hey, the patient is really angry, but it's coming from this child mode, I feel a sort of an awe response. That means he's in a place where he's hurting and being angry because of the hurt. But I need to validate. I need to be there. That's a different strategy than when I would sort of identify, say, hey, whoa, this is like this bullying attack mode. That's different. Then I need to bypass. I need to negotiate. I need to do something else to connect to this child mode. Does that make sense? Are you still with me?
Yes, Remco, and I have a question.
You have a question? Yeah.
Which is usually unmet need lies under this bully attack mode, or it can be very, various.
No, I guess you're totally right. Because what you say is there's this coping mode that's blocking us, but behind the coping mode, that's where we want to connect because that's where the needs are. I'm visual in the way that I see these modes. I see them as protective walls, and maybe this angry protector that I played is more like this gatekeeper that says, "Oh no, move along, nothing here to be found." And maybe the bullying attack mode is more aggressive, saying, "Hey, I taught you, now move back." No, move back. So you have different types of guards and gatekeepers, but it doesn't change the fact that they are protecting something. And this vulnerable child with unmet needs is behind it. And that's where we want to connect to. Yeah. I think that we could use a little break maybe. Is that okay with you? 10 minutes? 7:45, let's proceed.
Yeah.
Okay. Maria, tell us, what should we do? Just leave it as it is and just...
Or just nothing. You can turn off, you can mute yourself and turn off the video.
Okay.
And just have a break for 10 minutes.
Okay. See you in 10 then.
Okay. See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Choice, it's just a reality that you have to be on top of things, where you don't have to follow the rules, where you don't have to care about other people. It's making things safe. I guess that's the feeling that is so attractive for people who have the self-aggrandizing. It's strong, it feels superior. And that goes along with the behavior, as you've seen, like it is dominant. It's the other thing is that what was the primary emotional response that it triggered within us? If the patient would talk to you with this tone of voice, and maybe you're not intelligent as I need you to be. Maybe you're not as intelligent as you would like to be. Because I made myself perfectly clear. I mean, maybe you have a hard time understanding me. What is the emotional response that you have, the primary emotional response?
Punch her. Still feel angry.
Still feel angry. I'll stop being angry. I'm constantly angry.
That's why I'm here.
Oh, okay, makes sense. Yeah, but can be angry. Yes, I would feel angry myself. Yeah, can also be, like we said before, it is putting the other person down. So maybe you feel devaluated, maybe you feel sort of small or insecure because they know how to make you feel insecure. So the primary emotional response is good to identify. I'm focusing on the primary emotional response because I'm here with experienced therapists. So as a therapist, we have an understanding where it comes from. We realize this is not a complete her. But for the empathic confrontation, it's important that we stay in contact with our human side, not the therapist side, but just the human side that has primary responses. You feel angry when somebody does that. Okay. And what is your behavioral response? If you feel angry, Anastasia, what do you do?
Well, maybe anger is not my primary response. She's putting me down, so I feel not good enough. So my anger is to protect myself, but really, truly, yeah, I feel defective. Like, so.
Okay. So you mean like anger is maybe a part of the behavioral response, ways to protect yourself?
Well, I would go into overcompensation and have a, I try not to, but obviously have an argument.
Yeah. No, but hey, I totally relate to this.
Not with the patient, but with my mother-in-law for sure.
Yes, me too. And with my own mother as well.
Yeah.
I guess it's also with the behavioral response is also important that we identify the primary response. What would the man in the street react to this kind of behavior? The man in the street would feel attacked, angry because of that, and would lash back or move away. It could be different things, but try to identify it for yourself. Then ask yourself, is the timing right? Because you might feel this all in the very first session. And then I would say then empathic confrontation is not a good intervention for that moment. Because with the empathic confrontation, you want to have an understanding where it comes from. This is also something that you can prepare yourself with. Do I have a feeling or an understanding where this behavior comes from? Can I link it to the past? Can I link it to emote? So you need to have that understanding before you do that. So it's not something that you do in session 1. But it is good to have that awareness, because with that awareness, you can then confront the patient with this. Talk about what you see, what you hear, what you notice is going on, and point out that this is the behavior that is triggering you, is interfering with you. And try to do that in the same specific, concrete way as we discussed it just now. So talk about your feelings in a concrete way. Talk about behavioral responses. So all this is done in a very personal way. When you say it in this tone of voice, part of me or I feel put down. If that feeling goes stronger, I want to retaliate. I want to. But of course, this confrontation is quite strong. It's you're throwing something in the face of the patient that maybe is not really open to that, or has an understanding, but has a very limited window of tolerance. So do it in bits and pieces, so the patient has a way to digest all this. And that's part of the empathy already. Empathy means we talk about this, we confront, because we want the patient to understand it, because we understand. We understand this is a side of them, and it comes from a history of unmet needs. We want the patient to have the same awareness and to be in contact with the patient when you are so confronting. Try to be kind and validating as much as you can. So yes, you are talking about something that is upsetting to you, that you want to address, but every sign of a healthy adult needs to be complimented. That's the way to make this work, I guess. And then after that, you come to a point where you can think about what would that mean for the future? What would be the consequence for that? This is just like boom, to go the steps. Any questions about empathic confrontation?
I have a question.
Yes.
If the response is counterattacked and the person in that mode says, it's not my job to care about your feelings, I don't really care, but you feel put down, and if you retaliate, I'll destroy you, try me. Yeah.
Well, and the chances are pretty high, because the fact that you confront will not stop it right away. So they will stay in that mode. Let me answer, and maybe we can do that in practice. What I want to do is just try it out and try to demonstrate and make me be challenged. But if this happens, I guess part of what you have to do is just repeat yourself and point it out again. The fact that you've pointed out to the patient, hey, this is the behavior that you show, will not stop it right away. The patient is showing it again. And so what we have to do is point it out again. Exactly, exactly. This is what I mean. When you say, this is not my problem, you're the one who is having trouble with that. Again, you do that in such a way. Yeah, you say it with so much anger that, yeah, part of me is affected by that. I feel being put down. So this is exactly what we're talking about. Yeah. These patterns are rigid and persistent. So, and the healthy message that we need to convey is also something we need to be persistent with. Yeah. Other questions you might have?
What do you mean about small steps? I mean, when you do this empathic confrontation.
Yeah. Well, if you go with the steps, they're essential, but if you do them too quickly, it's an overwhelming, it's like a tsunami that you throw over the patient. Like, hey, when you say it like that, with that tone of voice, I feel being put down. And if that would go stronger, part of me would like to fight back. I'm not doing that, but I think this is a part of your history for so long, and this is a part of you now. So I see this part of you that's fighting back while on the one hand, but I guess on the other hand, there is this emotional side as well that has been deprivated for so long. So the content of what I was saying made sense if you could follow it, but it's just overwhelmingly too much. The patient is like, and will just, if they get triggered too much, they will just flip even more in the coping modes, because the coping modes are the only emotional regulating systems they have. So better is to do it in small steps. Like what I notice is you said like that maybe I wasn't intelligent enough. Remember saying that? Okay. Not just the words, by the way, but I also found that the way that you said it was sort of in an putting me down way. Does that make sense? Okay, so we seem to agree that this happened, and what I notice is that part of me, so small steps, step by step, bite for bite. But maybe we can, oops, sorry. So what we try to do is prepare, confront, emphasize, and then reflect on what the consequences are. But maybe we can try it out. I want to stop talking and do stuff. So we'll do that. The question is, who wants to be my self-aggrandizer patient? Maybe if the question was, who wants to be my avoidant patient, you would have an easier time saying that. But this is your chance. You can be sort of arrogant and putting me down. And who would like to do that?
I can do if nobody wants. If somebody wants, you're welcome.
Is everybody relieved? That Maria is the one? I'm happy with that.
I want to ask Anastasia, maybe she knows English so great and she looks like a very temperament person. Anastasia, maybe you would play.
You want me to be a narcissist? Okay. Maria, do you want to do it or do you want me to do it?
If you want, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay.
If you can.
I guess it's a compliment to you, Maria. Apparently you look kind and...
No. Okay.
No, Anastasia, I just need a patient, and you can be challenging. I would like you not to sort of play patient from hell, because if you want to make me suffer and stumble and fall, you will be successful, of course. I will not be in complete control, but make me work, make it hard on me. And like you said, when you said, well, go in counterattack when you do the confrontation, great. Okay.
Okay.
Before we start. In reality, I would have a case conceptualization. I wouldn't go over all the details, but I would like to have some understanding of, I mean, who am I going to face? A man, woman? You, Anastasia?
So I'll be a woman. I am 70.
17? 70?
70. And
okay, wow. Didn't know they were so grandizers also when they were 70. Yeah, right, of course you do. But so 70, and if I start the therapy, I always go over photographs of the childhood. Part of the case conceptualization is doing that. So what is the child that I've been seeing on the photographs? And I would like to have a clear picture of the suffering that this child has been undergoing.
Okay, so I was born in 1949. My dad was really old. He was about 60. I was the only child. I was loved and spoiled and pampered. My emotional needs were deprived, but I was given everything I wanted material-wise. I'm from a wealthy, middle to upper class German background.
Okay.
I'm spoiled. I have no limits. I feel entitled.
Yeah.
I am enmeshed with one of my children.
Okay. So
my husband died from alcoholism.
Yeah. Part of the case crystallization, of course, is to have an understanding of the unmet needs. Now, you already mentioned the lack of realistic limits, but
I'm lonely. I'm lonely. I think needs is I'm lonely, but I'm lonely.
Yeah, that was my fantasy, but so that's sort of in line with what reality is. So you were spoiled materialistic wise, everything was there, but if I would have seen this child on the photographs, you would be not seen in a way, not on an emotional level seen. Yeah. Okay. So how can I address you? What's your name?
Edith.
Edith. Shall we just start a session and you being the self-aggrandizer?
Oh, I have this house in England and this annoying neighbor just won't let go, and the house next door never gives me any problems. And things are not really working out here because, just feel this frustration. Can't get my son to spend any time with me. I feel really alone. You're not helping me, really. I'm paying you quite a big buck. Nothing's changed.
Okay.
You're a bit useless. I have to tell you that. Everybody around me, my lawyer, my solicitor, my doctor, everybody, my son, you.
And you mean, as you said, I'm useless. I'm not helping you.
No, I'm feeling as lonely as ever. And I don't feel lonely. I've got a whole bunch of friends. They all want to see me. I've got these several guys that I'm seeing.
Okay, can I stop you for a moment, Edith? So what do you say? That you're not happy at all with the situation. You miss the acknowledgement of the people around you, and at the same time you're not happy with how things are going in therapy.
Yeah,
Am I on the right track?
Yeah, I'm unhappy all around. My daughter, she's not doing a very good job with my grandson. She doesn't let me spend any time with him. I went to visit my son in England.
I'm sorry to hear that. It really sounds like you're upset.
Well, what am I supposed to do with you're sorry? Don't care, you're sorry. Nothing changes. I'm here for you to help me with my life situation. Keep your sorry.
Okay, that's nice. Thank you. So let's stop for a moment, not because...
sorry.
No.
A gentle version.
Perfect. No, wasn't gentle. Wow. No, perfect. No. I want to stop for a moment because I could feel all sort of things, but I wanted to make sure that I did feel affected by the way that you were behaving. I didn't feel that affected, that it was an irritating patient in a way when she was talking about others. But the moment that she was talking about me, that made me really be triggered and activated. That's what I need. To do the empathic computation, you need to sort of be aware that something is not going right. You need to feel that. But what do we think? What was going on? What was the behavior that was upsetting to me, do you think? That's a question for all of us. I mean, you've been listening, and what is the behavior that was upsetting, that needs to be addressed?
The words, maybe the devaluating words.
Yeah, what
content. That you're not helping me, and you're just don't. She said, I guess, about don't feel sorry for me. Just help me.
Yeah. Don't care for your sorry.
Don't care for, yeah.
Don't care for your sorry and useless. Yes, exactly. I totally agree. The words, some of the words were sort of having that effect. And what about the tone of voice? Do you feel like she was?
A little bit, I feel, not so much.
Sorry?
I feel just a little bit, probably detached, maybe, not so much.
Her tone of voice, you mean? Was a little bit detached?
A little bit, not so much. I feel it like normal.
Yeah. I was wondering myself. I'm curious if other people have other ideas, but it felt like you were doing your thing, and I was like a bystander, and I was audience. And when I said something, don't care for you. She was on her stage and just performing her thing, and part of the performance was about me, but it wasn't. I wasn't. So the tone of voice was, in a way, factual, maybe not completely detached, but she was not connecting. That was what I was sensing. Yeah. How do you think I was feeling? What was my primary response with words like useless, don't care for you, sorry? How would you feel?
Not competent. Yeah, defective.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So part of me feels that. Also, but that's also now for me. I was also irritated by that, but it has to do with the same feeling. So you're right. You're useless, and then yeah, there's anger to it as well. What would be the behavioral response if this would be just the woman on the street? You meet somebody at a party and she starts to talk that way. What do you do with that situation?
I would find a reason to go away.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to interact. You don't want to expose yourself to more of that criticism and start to feeling even more defective. So that's a natural response, of course. Why would you expose yourself to something so upsetting? So this is important. If it's about preparation, the preparation is about figuring out what actually is going on, how is it affecting me, because this also tells us something about how other people in her life, in her surrounding, will be affected by this. Because it's not just her doing that with me, this is her being in a mode that does that to other people. So we need to talk about that. Okay, let's go back into the empathic invitation and the role play. Okay, Edith. Let's activate it again. So to really get into that. So Edith, I'm sorry to hear that. It really sounds like you're upset. I mean, it sounds like you're not happy with the situation. I'm sorry to hear that.
You're hilarious. I'm paying you £200 per hour, and you think I'm after your sorry.
Okay, okay. Well, Edith, what I would like to do now is pause for a moment and stop and talk about what's happening between the two of us. Because I think it's important for you and important for us to talk about it. Is that okay?
If you think so.
Yeah, I do.
I'll be a good client. Okay, what do you want to discuss?
Well, I'm happy that you will be a good client, and I already think that you're a good client. I'm happy with you. But what's happening now is important for you, because what's happening is, what I notice is you say things like you're useless. I don't care for your story. You're hilarious. Remember the words?
Well, you kind of are, but yeah. What's your issue with these words?
Well, maybe again, what's happening now? Like, it's not just the words; it's also combined with the tone of voice. It's like you use the words hilarious, but with the tone of voice, it makes it clear that I am hilarious, and you stress that again when we talk about it. You see that happening? I mean, understand what I'm talking about? So you talk like you're hilarious, you're useless. It's the words and the tone that makes it clear that you really do think that. Does that make sense?
You kind of lost me. How's this about you now?
Well, I think this is really about you and me, and that it is important that we talk about. Because what I notice, Edith, when you do that, when you talk to me that way, yeah, part of me reacts to that. Part of me doesn't feel good about that. It feels like being put down in a way.
What do you expect from me? I mean, you should speak to your own therapist about this.
Well, no, I don't think so, because it's that I'm talking about how it is affecting me doesn't mean that I'm overwhelmed by that. It's not that I want to say, well, I'm so lost with that feeling. No, not at all. It's not overwhelmingly strong, and you can expect from a therapist that he knows how to handle emotions, and yes, I can.
Oh, well, that's a relief, because really, for a moment there, I thought you wanted me to look after you. Not here for that.
No, you don't have to look after me. Certainly not. I can look after myself, but I want you to become aware that the way that you behave with words like that is affecting me. I need you to be aware of that. That it's not the same as looking after me, but I need you to be aware that when you talk that way, it is having an effect. I notice it. It is an unpleasant feeling. How does it make you feel when I say that?
Criticized. Are you criticizing the way I'm interacting with you?
Okay, well, I'm glad that you pointed out. Let me make myself very clear. I'm not criticizing you. I don't think that you are a bad person or whatever, Edith. I'm happy with you and the way that we work. But I guess, yeah, you're sensitive, and you're right in the fact that what I am talking about is, yeah, it's not giving you a compliment. It is pointing out that it is affecting me. Yes, that's true. But it's not the same as saying, well, you're bad or this is a horrible thing. No, not at all.
Okay, I also feel something in my chest, like a big feeling here. Because I feel criticized. And I know you said you don't, but kind of like,
yeah,
I couldn't really hear your explanation. I still feel like you're criticizing me, and feel like, I don't want to admit it, but like scared or something, like here, like, I don't know, you're going to do something because you feel I'm criticizing you. I wasn't really criticizing you. You were okay up until recently. It's just recently that you're not really, a bit like everybody else in my life, a bit useless, but yeah.
Okay. Just in between, I'm glad the way things are going, by the way, but well, let's stop the hold on for a moment. Let's talk about what was happening actually. Would you like to reflect on what you noticed? What did you notice what we were doing?
I think second time, when you persevered with the impact that I'm having on you, I could connect more and more to the actual feeling. If I could name the fear as a narcissist, I was scared that you were gonna abandon me.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult to admit it, so kind of like detached from your explanation that so kind of like a lot of flipping. It's very difficult to stay connected to your explanation. I'm set to go for you because I feel so much superior to you.
Yeah, well, that was the one thing that there was a bonus for me that you were starting to talk about your fear. I was just checking, was that sort of part of being flexible and kind? Because you don't have to. If you feel like you are still in the superior and it's difficult to talk about it.
No, I truly felt it. I couldn't hold back on that. So.
Okay. So then I'm just lucky. But what you also
because you asked me how you're feeling, how you're feeling.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So if we talked about do it in bits and pieces, don't rush it, but be strong and persistent. So yes, I'm repeating it. And the what I also notice is that when you do this confrontation, when you talk about you do this, and when you do it and this way, it affects me. The inclination is to soften it and to say, well, I know, mama, and to go to the empathy. And maybe I would, part of me wanted to rush to the empathy by talking about parts. But I guess don't do it too quickly, because you need that confrontation and the frustration that is there. You want the patient to feel that, hey, this is important and we need to apparently we need to do something now. And maybe you're still at loss what to do with it, but don't jump over the confrontation. The confrontation is something that feels unpleasant, but it is an important ingredient. It really depends on the phase of therapy and the window of tolerance of the patient, how strong I need to do that confrontation. Suppose that you were really flipping out of it, then I should, of course, have lowered the intensity. And I felt like I need to do something like that. I need to give you compliments. No, I'm glad with you. I'm glad with the way that we work. I'm not criticizing you. You're not a bad person. So you try to stay connected. But hey, I did want you to become aware of the fact that this is upsetting. Okay. Shall we move on then? Okay. So just to go back in the role play. So yes, it is having an effect on me, and I am wondering how it makes you feel. And then you talk about it's difficult to accept, but it also feels a bit anxious. I'm so happy that you talk about what's happening. I do realize it's not a pleasant thing that's happening right now, but this is exactly why I think it's so important. It is about how you feel and how we interact. And part of what you notice, it feels anxious. Am I right?
I feel like that all the time. What's the use? You're being a bit pushy. Why are you pushing me into that place?
Yeah.
That's always there. What's the point? I feel like that. I told my son I miss him. I feel really alone. And I said, oh, let's spend the whole day together. And he was like, well, I've got a wife and a toddler and another kid on the way. I don't have any time to spend with me or them. So ha ha ha, mother, you're ridiculous. I can't spend a whole day with you. So what's the point? I think you should stop pushing me into that place.
Well, that's a good question. What's the use? I would like to give you an answer to that. Because as I said, when I see you in our conversation and you talk to me in a certain way, yes, it affects me. Why am I talking about it? Not because I want to talk about my feelings constantly. I can manage those. But I realized that, hey, this is not just something that happens right here with me. I guess this is the Edith that other people might also see.
No, my friends love me. They, you know, every time I come back to Germany, my calendar is full. My social calendar is so full. My friends love me.
Of course, people will also love you because you're also a lovable and kind person. But I guess when somebody does something that you find ridiculous, I think we will let them know. I think what they will see is the Edith that will point out that it's useless, ridiculous what they're doing.
Did you just call me ridiculous?
No. No, I have a feeling like you're a strong person. If in your life, when you feel that somebody does something that is ridiculous, I think you're strong and you will tell them, you will let them know. Am I right?
For sure. I speak my mind. Why should I hold back? I'm an independent woman and...
Yes, well, that's a good question, Edith. Stick with that question because that's what I was saying. When I was talking to you at the beginning of a conversation, I think I saw that strong, independent Edith that had no trouble at all in pointing out what her opinion is. And that's why I think we need to talk about it, because I was feeling affected by her, but I guess others in your life might also see her. Sometimes you flip into a state where you are strong, a state in which you are putting people in their place. Can you see what I'm saying?
You lost me. Who is this her? This is me. I am strong and independent and opinionated, and I'm proud because my opinion is actually right. And most of the time people are wrong or stupid. So who's this woman that you're talking about that affected you? You lost me.
Well, I don't want to lose
I think you're not really following me, so you lost me.
Well, I'm glad that you pointed out, because I don't want to lose you, of course, and I still believe it is really important. Let me answer to that. I think what we talk about is you, but you can be very strong, but you can be also very kind and loving, and people have friends in Germany who love you. But you can also be sometimes the Edith that is strong and speaks her mind. It's all you, but I guess in different emotional states. And I guess I'm talking about her because what I saw just now is the Edith that is strong. I've seen you in another state where you were just now talking about your anxiety. That feels a bit different. There is an emotional side to you that feels anxious, and sometimes you are more the strong one. Does that make sense?
I don't think I feel anxious ever, but that's for the weak people. That's not me.
Maybe I'm misunderstood, but you just told me that Yeah, you could feel this feeling in your chest, and it
Well,
was this
it's
unpleasant
gone.
feeling.
It's gone now, so you can
Yeah,
forget about it.
yeah, but well, that's very good of you to point it out, because this is, I guess, how it works. On one moment, in one situation, you can feel that, but now, not now, now it's gone, and you flip into a different emotional state. Now it's gone, and it's almost like it's never there. And I guess that's when you also become this strong Edith speaking her mind. But that's also the part of you that is also using words like hilarious and useless. So it's all about you, Edith. But there are different sides that we have as human beings, and you also have different sides to you.
Well, I have to think about it. I'm going to have a glass or 2 or 3 of wine tonight and a cigar. I'll let you know what I think about this hypothesis of yours, as you've got so many about me. But I appreciate you thinking about me. I sound quite complex. I quite like that. I'm not a simple person. So well done, Remco.
Okay. I'm just figuring out what's going on right now. Because I'm asking myself who I'm listening to now. Am I listening to this emotional Edith that is talking about anxiety, or is this maybe this other one, the side of Edith that can be strong and powerful and puts people in their place? What do you think? Which one is active?
Well, I think it's important you know your place, because I'm your client. I pay you the money, and if you push me too far into places I don't want to go to, you will hear about it.
Okay. So in a way, what your answer is, those two different sides, it's the last one that's active right now. You're in a place right now where you feel like, hey, I need to put him in a place. I pay him big bucks, and he needs to know where he stands.
And we're kind of out of time as well. I hope you're keeping an eye on that, because, you know, I'm a busy woman.
And again, I want to tell you, Edith, I like you, but when I see that part of you, yes, it has an effect on me. And I think part of you knows what I'm talking about. When you say that, when you put people in their place, I think part of you realizes that it will not make them feel happy. It's not a nice feeling to be put into a place.
We're back to talking about your feelings, are we?
Yes, and you want to know why?
Not really, but I have a feeling you're going to tell me anyway.
You're right. Because I care for you, and my concern is that I don't think you can manage those situations, and you're strong. You know how to put people in place. My concern is more that I can manage as well now, because I know you a little bit better. I know about this other part of you. I'm a therapist, and I should be knowing how to handle emotions, but people in life are not always strong enough, knowing enough to realize where this comes from, and that you are not just being an arrogant person. No, you have a strong side, but there's a very caring and emotional side to you as well. People will not see that. That's my concern. We're talking about my feelings, Edith, because I worry that if we wouldn't, then you will live your life with her, with the strong one, and she will push people away. I feel the effect when you're
I don't think it's okay for you to call me arrogant. I think you're overstepping the mark there. You're forgetting I'm your client, and you really should watch your language. You just called me arrogant.
No.
And you made this ridiculous assumption that people in my life think that I'm arrogant.
Yeah. Well, I do apologize if I have offended you.
Yeah, so you
And
should. You did.
Yeah. And I think it is important that we talk about how it affects us and how it feels. And when you say, well, it feels bad to use that word arrogant, I take that back. I'm glad that you pointed out to me. At the same time, we are talking about something important that I won't let go of. I do care about you, and I want you to gain. I want you to have a full life. And there is a side of you that is strong, but that's not a part of you that is making it easy to connect to you.
You are today a little bit like a dog with a bone. I have to agree. There's not letting go of.
No, I am persistent. Yeah. And I do that.
My life is full and happy. So it's very difficult to know why you are being so difficult yourself today. I'm not enjoying this session.
No. Well, again, if you let me, I want to respond to that.
How can I stop you? You're a grown-up man. I'm not in control of you.
I am a grown-up man, and I do think this is important, and I want to take up the opportunity, because again, I don't think that the strong side of you That will survive, of course. I'm not concerned that you won't survive, but I'm thinking about you and your life. I'm thinking about the photographs that you showed me. I'm thinking about the girl that I saw. And she could also be strong, but she was also feeling lonely. And if there's one thing that I would like to change in your life, is that pain and that feeling of being lonely changed.
Well, now you just tricked me. Yes, it's true. I was lonely as a kid, but I wasn't wanting for anything. So, yeah.
You were not, sorry, wanting? What did you
I
say?
wasn't short of anything. Okay,
No,
maybe.
no,
Yeah, I felt a bit lonely, but otherwise I wasn't short of anything. I
no.
had everything I wanted to have.
Yeah. No, and that's not the concern that I have. I don't think I
So
shouldn't
why
fight
are you
for.
bringing up that little girl? I told you it was quite painful for me. Like I said, don't push me into places I don't want to go to.
Well, I want us to realize that you still have that vulnerable pain inside of you. And that's why we talk about this, Edith, because I care about you. I don't want you to feel lonely in your life. And my concern is that this strong one will make it difficult for people to connect. They
So
don't see,
what are you going to do
no,
about me
no,
not feeling that
Edith,
pain
Edith,
inside?
Edith, let me finish for a moment because I
Yes,
want to.
but you're not giving me you're not giving me any practical suggestions. You said you're
Oh,
going to be all about homework and behavioral modification, and people will feel different about me.
Edith, Edith, I think what we're doing right now is a big thing. What we're doing is talking about that pain and talking about how you've learned to survive that. And I think that is important. That is hard work. Yes, we're not talking about homework at this moment, but we are talking about the fact that you've been this lonely child, and I guess part of you still feels that pain. And I guess the one way to survive that is by becoming strong, and you've learned to do that. There's this strong part of you, and that now knows how to survive. She puts people on their place, and she knows how to deal with difficult situations, but it doesn't change the fact that there's still this pain that you have in your life. And that's why I won't let go. That's why I'm this dog with my teeth in the bone, because I care about you. I want to have you, I want you to have a life that is full in every way, not just materialistic, but where people know you and like you who you are. And not just see this strong one and maybe people sort of go around her because they don't like being put down. They don't like being put into places.
So if you're finished now, I would like to know what you want me to do about it.
Well, I guess you are already doing something really good. And I want to give you a huge compliment. I think you're doing great, because what I realize is it has been really stressful in a sort of a way. I guess part of you, the strong one, has been wanting to stand up and walk away for many moments. But you stayed and we talked and we're still here. And I had a chance to talk about what I think is more essential than just being strong. So yes, I want to give you compliments. This is not easy to listen to me and talk about feelings and to go back to the pain. But you sustained. I really think that is a good thing.
Well, I appreciate your compliment, but considering you spent half of our session talking about yourself, I intend to pay you only half of the fee today.
Now, this is the homework that I give you right now. The homework assignment that I give you right now is you have to answer the next question.
Okay, I'll write it down. Let me get my notebook.
Okay, so write down, there are two sides that I have. There are two sides that I have. One is the strong one, and one is the emotional one. The question for you is, which one is now telling me, hey, you've been talking half of a session about you, and I've been paying you big bucks, and I don't get anything about that at all. Is that the emotional one that feels lonely, or is this the strong one that puts people into their places?
Was that an impersonation of me? That's really good, Remco.
I know, I can.
Okay, I'll have a think about it, but in the meantime, my intention is still the same. So thank you for the homework, but I'll only cover half of your bill because I really didn't enjoy today, and you did spend a lot of time talking about you.
Yeah, I did, but we talked all about you and your feelings, and we're going to stop with that because I realize we are spending a lot of time wasting time. Okay.
Bravo, Remco.
Thank you so much for being a challenging patient.
It's a nightmare to imagine the client.
And bravo, Anastasia.
Anastasia, bravo.
My God, she is challenging, yes. And I don't presume that I've been doing a great thing or that I cured or whatever. No, but I try to use some of the elements that we talked about. And for all of you who've been sort of witnessing my suffering, could you see some of the elements that I was describing before we jumped into roleplay? What did you see? What did you see me do?
You just repeated the words she used, and also you mirrored the tone of voice she used in the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. I had to try everything because you were quite persistent. It was good. No, it was really good because hey, the fact that I feel that effect, it just shows the persistence of the pattern. But you have to point out that behavior. I need to make it clear that there is this part, and she talks that way, and mirror it, talk about it in concrete, specific words. Yeah. What else? What else did you see me do?
Talking about counter transference, about your feelings.
Yeah.
About influence on you.
And what I noticed, and that's also a good thing, it's that's not easy. Of course, in a way, you make yourself vulnerable. You show that you're a human and that you have a vulnerable side. And part of me wanted to sort of stop doing that because you were so devaluative about it. But the thing is, we need to model healthy behavior. I need to be this healthy person that has a vulnerable side, at the same time strong enough to manage that. So it might be unpleasant, but I don't stop doing it because I want you to do that same thing. Otherwise, I would just close off, and you would be closed off, and we would just be in the pattern that is there for all our life. Other things that you notice?
You just pointed out always on her this arrogant side, I don't know, confronting.
Yeah.
And
which was
an emotional side too.
Sorry?
And on emotional side too. You're
Yeah.
talking about these two sides.
So you try to disentangle the two sides, which is not easy because for you it's me. Hey, you're too, who's she then? I'm me. And that's true, but that doesn't mean that we have to let go of this mode model. The mode model is not a theory, it's a reality. We have to be persistent again, like there's she's making it difficult. People will see her, they will not see you with your emotions. She will make it difficult for people to connect, while you are still a lovely person that is very good in connecting with other people. So did we tag on them and talk about almost as separate persons? Again, it's not easy. You've seen that sometimes it's a struggle, but you don't let go of that model. Any questions that you might have?
What will you do about the fee? If she would really say that I will pay you half and that's it.
Yeah, so what I try to do is try to sort of lighten things up and sometimes joke or try to make a joke to sort of take away this strong, because it is hard work. And so first let's start to joke a bit about that fee, but if she really was serious about it, no, because no, this is Edith, this is your therapy, and I'm sorry if that sort of feels bad at this moment, but if you let me, I want you to know why this is so important. You need to become aware of her. She is. Why did you come to therapy? Why did you come to me? And we have to link that mode to the suffering. We have to link that mode to the fact that she's in therapy. And we have the case conceptualization for that. I wouldn't be able to do that because I didn't know Edith. I didn't know why she was in therapy. But of course, that is something we have to point out. This is the therapy. This is what you need to learn to do. You need to become aware of her. And apparently what you tell me is that you don't know her that well. For you, it's just you. And that makes sense. Of course, you don't see yourself as separate persons, but this is your therapy. You have to become aware of her and the effect she has on other people. Okay, I would like you to practice the steps that we've been talking about and that you saw me try to put into effect. This is the challenging part for Maria because you will be split up in pairs, and what the person is doing sorry, just running through that. What the person needs to do that plays the patient, play the self-aggrandizer, and do it in similar ways as Anastasia did. So challenge your patient, don't play the patient from hell. As the therapist, we've talked about the steps, try to put them into effect. Don't think you have to do that perfectly, but do it step by step. Try to point out the behavior, talk about the effects it has, and then link it to the mode and talk about this mode as a separate person. Okay? Maria, you have to be guiding us in this.
Yeah, one moment, I'm doing it. I'm dividing all.
Sorry, and what time do we have for this exercise?
Well, because Edith was so
understand.
slow, we have a limited amount of time. This is overcompensation, of course. So we have a full half hour. That means I would like to use 20 minutes for the role play. That goes one way then. So one patient and one therapist. And I guess that's enough for the time that we have. So we have 5 to 10 minutes to talk about it afterwards. Compliments to you. What I saw, and I seriously mean that, what I saw with the people that I've been watching, good stuff. And the good stuff is that the pace of how you were talking, doing the empathic conversation was good, was slow, was step by step. And simple as it may seem, that is an essential ingredient. There is a lot of escalation. When I was talking to Edith, it was easy to sort of duck, 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 duck. There's a fastness in that. So it's really good of you to slow down. What I also liked is that almost all of you, at least the moments that I saw, because I was just watching part, you were linking it to modes. I guess the main feedback I've been giving to people is to make it even more explicit. I know that it is a personal style that I do that waving, but I truly believe that to see these modes as ego-dystonic states, almost people in the room, is helpful for both the patient and yourself. So to point them out, like, yeah, but she's not really helping. I do connect to you. I do feel more connected to you, but she's blocking us in a way, that sort of language. Yeah. How were your experiences and maybe questions that you might have coming from this exercise?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Remco, whenever I see you are role playing or Guido or somewhere else, you have a slow pace like you just mentioned, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But some patients, they are so quickly, they are. Is it always possible to make this slow pace? Are you always like this, or sometimes you are quicker, or it's your aim to slow down always with all patients?
It's the best way to put it, the last one. So the aim is to slow down, but that does not necessarily mean that we are always doing that and we always are successful with that. So yes, of course, I'm a human being. I'm quite quick and fast myself. So that happens. But what I do notice is that with the patients that when it happens more with those patients, that's not necessarily a good thing. These are also the patients that I sort of stumble into my own schemas. So yes, the aim is to slow down because slowing down helps to build up awareness. The way to do that with these patients is just to make use of, to make yourself like the problem, like I'm sorry, I'm not as fast, so I have to sort of slow down a bit because otherwise I'm not sure if I can manage. Let me talk out loud. So what I hear you say is, and then I look away and I talk out loud and I summarize again and I say it's because I'm too slow, and that is helpful for some of those really fast patients to slow down because, okay, so apparently you need help because you're also this slow therapist. Yeah, but slowing down helps to build up awareness. Yeah. Other questions or feedback? I'm a bit aware of the time, so if we talk about time management, we should be running up in a minute or so. just would like to get some feedback. How did you experience this webinar, the 3 hours that you've survived so far? Does that mean something positive, Oksana? Well, that's really nice to hear. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
That was really, really very great and useful. Thank you so much, Remco, for this.
Is there anything that you, well, thank you so much. I'm also looking at the same time to other people to see if that is something you can agree with, and you don't have to, of course. Is there something that we should change maybe for the upcoming dates next Monday? You want me to slow down or move faster?
I'm sorry, maybe I'm too active, but I didn't hear videos well. That was so I did when you played role plays. It was great, but video sound in videos I couldn't catch.
Okay, that is a thing to figure out how that works then. Yeah. Okay. I'm happy with the way that it goes. It's figuring out how it goes for me personally. I'm happy with Marie guiding me through the process, but thanks so much for being present. And I like the fact that we covered so much and you were interactive and you're also flexible in going to breakout rooms and answering questions and doing role plays. Thank you again, Anastasia. So many thanks. Looking forward to see you in a couple of days.
Thank you, Remco.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, and look forward to see you
And
next Monday.
thank you, Maria, for organizing.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Maria.
Thank you.
Round of applause.
I'm not alone. We are with Tatiana and Emma doing it together.
Yeah, well, many
So
thanks.
thank you, all girls.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So
See you all
see you next
See you
next Monday.
next Monday. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.